dirty, anti-vaxxer, pro-vaxxer, you just trust the science, anti-science, misinformed, child abuser, and the list goes on. Hi, my name is Canaan Araujo. I am a double major in broadcast journalism and political science, and my project is called Is There Really a Choice? The Vaccine Controversy. As each new year comes and goes, so does the growing list of labels placed on moms and dads by the media, government officials, and other friends and family who make a decision. The decision to vaccinate their children or who choose not to vaccinate their children. My project will be a 10 to 12 minute presentation showing both pro-vaccine and anti-vaccine viewpoints from medical professionals and parents, because I want to let the interviewees speak for themselves. Please feel free to ask any questions you have after the presentation. Thank you. When parents walk into pediatric hospitals like these, they are greeted with doctors holding syringes similar to this and asking the question, is your child vaccinated? Parents and medical professionals alike share their stories on the success, joy, or heartbreak these syringes carry with them.
I think for people who weren't in public health, it kind of felt abrupt and fast. And like, oh, there's all of a sudden a vaccine when we don't have vaccines for some of the other diseases that impact us. Like, how did this happen so quick? I've been in countries where I've been in the middle of measles outbreaks and polio outbreaks, things that we don't see here. And I think that we're so far removed from the suffering that that's not even in the weight of our decision making, because we don't know what the disease looks like. The history we had with SARS and MERS, like before, there was a lot of vaccine development that happened with those outbreaks. And it's in the same family as COVID. And so that gave us these years of history of starting vaccines. And then we just were able to move faster because of it. So I think personally, we were overjoyed. We were excited because if somebody dies from a preventable disease, that's not okay. I had tears in my eyes when I got vaccinated just because it was like, we can save more lives.
Childhood vaccinations have actually been one of the major public health achievements in the last 50 years, where we have been able to eliminate many different childhood diseases with the use of vaccines. The particular claims to the link between MMR vaccine and autism that has been investigated, looked into, and there has not been any links or any associations shown with that. It is an individual choice. There might be certain religious considerations. There might be some medical exemptions. There might be certain medical conditions that might not be appropriate for children to be vaccinated.
We have been villainized since day one of the vitriol that we're kind of treated as lower class or uninformed. We don't view this as those that choose to vaccinate their children are evil. And we are not pushing, anti-vaccine. It's just, there should be a choice. And especially now in California with some of the losing of parental right, is there's always that risk of them kind of sharing, this is medical child abuse, and us losing our children. And again, even with hundreds and hundreds of protesters who kind of go to the court, is they will listen to us for 2 hours and nothing changes.
We're here at the Citadel Outlets to ask Californians their thoughts on the COVID mRNA vaccine and childhood vaccines.
Bullshit.
What?
Bullshit. I mean, how long did it take them to really come out with the COVID vaccine? Did they really do the testing that was necessary? No.
I think of protection because of the rate people were dying at that time, but a little bit skeptical. I know everyone has freedom of choice, and for everyone's fear, there's a reason for it.
En lo personal, ya sería criterio de cada padre pensando en la seguridad por cada de sus hijos. Bueno, de mi parte, yo como madre buscaría el bienestar para ellos y yo sí estoy de acuerdo en que haya otra dosis si es necesario para el refuerzo de la gripe, ¿no? De lo que es el COVID.
It should be a role, a law that, for the protection of the kids. That's the parents' decision.
When some people think it's for religious or for any beliefs or for a medical problem, the complication of the infection is way worse than not taking the vaccine.
people should still be able to have a choice, but I mean, there's just going to be like repercussions. I mean, some people get sick even if they get the vaccination. Yeah. So there's always just like pros and cons to both.
Being very familiar with about 20 years of experience within the pharmaceutical industry, I'm very aware of how clinical trials are run and what the requirements are for data to be supplied before we determine something is absolutely safe. So for instance, when I took my son 2 days after he got the second shot, his heart started racing. I took him to the emergency room. He thought he was going to die. He threw up outside the emergency room. It was terrible. It was way worse than anything COVID was ever going to do to him. And there was enough data to know that kids that age or under had virtually no risk whatsoever of any serious harm from COVID. They knew that. But then the data started to become very clear that it did not stop the spread. It should have been shared openly. And then researchers could have gone in and published all kinds of information about it. And then doctors could have made informed decisions with the patients themselves. The vaccine itself is a wonderful thing and probably saved many, many lives. And we'll never know exactly what that looked like. But the data and the way that it was managed was done very irresponsibly.
We have 3 children. Our first daughter was perfectly fine, had all of the vaccine schedule at that time in 1995, 1996.
Our daughter has gut issues. We now know that the MMR is associated with gut issues. She screamed for the first year of her life, but we were told by the doctor that was just, the formula she was on or anything but the vaccine. And now, as a grown-up, she still has issues. She has seizures and various other issues as well. And then our son, very sensitive to light and sound, really. And we just wonder, do you see those things in the unvaccinated, is my question. To be fair, though, I will say that the day I took Billy for his MMR, a friend of mine did warn me that there'd been some news about autism and the MMR. So in defense, really, of those people that are pro-vaccine, I get it. Because when she told me about that, she just, wait. I told my friend, I said, you're crazy, because a doctor would never do something to harm my child.
Our second child had his first lot of vaccines, the DTP at 2, 3, 4 months, and then got really quite sick and then needed antibiotics from 2006 through 2013 in his first year. And then he went in for his 13-month MMR shot, and within 24 hours, he was hospitalized with encephalitis, and we lost the normal developing perfect child that we had to a child who regressed considerably following that. So we then started to wake up and actually realize what had happened to our son. Doctors are only given approximately 7 days on vaccines in terms of their medical training over 5 years. And you will see that doctors are coming out of the system with the belief that all vaccines are safe and effective. It's a profit-run business. Show me one safety study on all of this combination together. And then look at the FDA saying the amount of aluminium that is safe is 250 micrograms, and yet you put the schedule together and there's over 4,250 micrograms in that combination of different shots.
My son, Stephen, who's now 25 years old, was injured by his 15-month infant vaccines. He received 3 different vaccines, all while having an active ear infection. 2 of the vaccines he received at that time contained mercury. The amount of mercury that my son was receiving far exceeded the FDA and the EPA safe limits. None of the vaccines that are on the infant child vaccination schedule have been tested with a true placebo control. Well, vaccines get a pass. They take this, this prior approved vaccine, something that is not a true control that has, say aluminum in it or mercury, formaldehyde, polysorbate 80, that is going to have its own profile of adverse events. So then that allows them to approve dirtier and dirtier vaccines. I just produced a book called Vax Unvax, Let the Science Speak. And if they go to chapter 2 of the book, they'll look at studies where the entire vaccination schedule is tested against children who are completely unvaccinated. They did an entire analysis on all races, all categories, everybody that was in the study, male and female. And they showed that the rate of autism was 49% higher in those that got the MMR on time versus those that delayed until 3 years. And that was a statistically significant result, but they just summarily ignored it. The conclusions did not match CDC's own results. The COVID-19 vaccines, especially the mRNA platform, are among the dirtiest vaccines that have ever been formulated and produced. I'm very concerned why in the world you would take the most toxic part of the virus, that's the spike protein. The spike protein does the most damage, and then you would transfect individuals using this technology so they become spike protein production factories. Why would you manipulate their bodies in a fashion that all of a sudden they start to make a toxin? We have no idea what the long-term safety of these are.